Today we're back in New York to talk to a man who's the host of several of the world's most popular television food shows, including Good Eats, Cutthroat Kitchen, and Iron Chef America. He's also a James Beard Award winner and a watch collector. His name is Alton Brown, and today we're talking watches. Alton Brown.
Hi.
Thrilled to have you here. This is an honor, truly.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Hodinkee offices.
It's nice digs. I'm glad to be here.
So we have to ask, the first question we always ask everybody in Talking Watches is, how did you get into watches in the first place?
As a kid, I was addicted to two things. And I'm talking kid like 3, 4, 5 years old.
Sure.
One, NASA, Apollo program, and then Jacques Cousteau. And the thing that kind of unified all those people was everybody had really great watches. Of course, the NASA guys were all wearing Speedmasters, and most of the diving guys were either wearing, Doxes or Rolexes or the old Seamasters. So I wanted to be like those guys, and so I fixated on watches from a very early age.
Interesting. So what was your first memory of wanting a watch or owning a watch?
I spent my earliest years in Southern California, and I remember my parents all of us going to a big department store before Christmas. But instead of the toy store, I gravitated towards the watch counter, and I spotted this groovy little wind-up Timex, and a lot of us back then, children of the 60s, that was our first, because that's what you got. And I was like, screw all that toy stuff. That's what I want, and my parents like, you want a watch? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, can you even tell time? And I'm like, yeah, this one says blah, 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 this one says blah, blah, blah. And so that year for Christmas, I got my first Timex.
And how old were you?
4. Probably.
So you've been a watch guy since 4?
Yeah.
Wow. You're deep, man.
Yeah.
We see you've got a proclivity for vintage watches here.
I
So
do.
walk us through a few of these here.
Well, I decided to bring you 6 watches that all have rotating bezels. Where do you want to start? I have a GMT because I'm a pilot. So
Are you
I've
actually
always,
a pilot?
Yeah, I fly. So I've always had a thing for tool watches. And this is just a gorgeous example with the bakelite having faded. The looms are still big and kind of fluffy looking, which is actually the first thing I look at. I look at how puffy that is. I want to see that still mounted up there. Then I've got a 1971, what's called the Red Sub. This particular watch I bought specifically for the ghosting on the face and the bezel. It's gray, and I'm a real sucker. Although I know that for collectors, you want watches that look as mint as possible. But I like them when they are beat up and faded and have patina. It's just like the beautiful thing about the Explorer you're wearing is that we always look for the tropical dials. And one of the things we love is like when they were worn in the Vietnam War, that South Asian sun, they've turned into like Hershey bars. So I love this reference, and I got it because the red is considered a collectible. It's about as big as I like in a Rolex, and I love the patina. This 1954 6205
So this is an early
reference is an early one. That's the oldest watch, oldest Rolex that I have. Distinctive for a few reasons. It is the first reference that used the word Submariner, I'm pretty sure. And I'm pretty sure it's the first reference to use a Mercedes hand.
I believe that's correct.
Is that true?
Sounds
I
right.
know that I may be a little bit off on that. And it's so clean. I look at it, it's like almost like a brand new watch. Now, I'm sure that the crystal is not original, nor is the bezel. But the thing is, about collecting Rolexes is that they used to replace stuff all the time. If you had one service issue and you sent your watch in, they would update it. So someplace there's probably a whole bin of bezels that we would kill to get because
$30,000 bezel.
Because $30,000 bezel. Well, certainly in the case of this GMT, if that had the original bezel on it, that would be probably a 6-figure watch because they all fell off.
Right. So the 6204, 6205 they're barely Submariners in the sense that they're so small and so thin, small crown obviously.
Small crown.
Most people wouldn't even recognize this as a Submariner today.
Oh, certainly. Although of course the DNA is there. I tend to like smaller watches. I have a small wrist. I look clumsy in big watches. And I think that as a man who wants to wear a watch with a suit as well as for other things, I think a really big watch gets in the way. It's like I look at the new Navitimers at 47 millimeters and I'm like, I have hats smaller than that. I don't need anything that large. My fixation with dive watches, as I say, expressed very early. And this, Nevada Gretchen, was given to me by a relative. It was made in my birth year, 1962. I've had this watch for a very, very, very long time. The integration of deco indexes with this kind of baby Panerai cushion shape.
It really looks like one.
Rings my bell. I really, really, really like it. And they call that the Pac-Man model because the 9 and the 6 look like Pac-Man going. I have next to that a Tudor Snowflake, which is, if not iconic, I have a weakness for Tudor. And you might disagree with me on this, or you might back me on this. It's almost as if Tudor was the funkier offshoot of Rolex, where it's like, we're gonna do some design things that are a little more daring and a little more funky, but we're not gonna put our movements in there, because this is essentially a Rolex, but without a Rolex movement.
Very much so.
And I love the blue. I've always liked blue faces. I like the way that the hands look. The indices are just these blocks. There's no Cyclops, and I'm not a huge Cyclops fan. I think it breaks the line of the watch a little bit, although I understand it's necessary. So that's actually one of my favorite watches of all time. This model from, I'm actually not certain because I haven't run the numbers, 6970, I think.
It's meters first, so
yeah,
early,
it's meters first, so pretty early, and I wear that watch a lot when I travel. So next to this is a early 70s Omega Chronostop. My father was wearing this watch when he died in 1973, and it was on the last day of 6th grade. I was 10, and my mom waited a couple years and gave me the watch.
Wow.
And I had all the records, because he was a very meticulous guy, so I had service records and I had all the numbers for everything. And in college, one day my apartment was broken into, and my apartment was looted, and the watch was stolen.
Wow.
Then, about 10 years ago, I found the exact watch on eBay.
The actual watch?
The actual watch. All the numbers matched. The movement numbers matched. It was beat to crap, but the feeling when I was online and it was like, had my records, I'm reading the numbers and I'm looking at photos and I realized this was actually my dad's watch.
That's incredible.
I was kind of overcome, and I paid way too much for it. It was barely running, and I was able to find somebody in Atlanta who was able to get, over about a 6-month period of time, all original parts to rebuild, and now here it is in actual better shape than it was when my dad wore it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, to actually get the watch back after basically a 20-year absence.
Were you looking for it? I mean, was there an eBay?
I had alerts. Yeah. I was always looking for it. I had never stopped looking for it, and eBay had become just this wonderful tool for being able to search through for these things. So I feel extraordinarily fortunate. And I use this watch a lot when I'm flying because the chronostop function is perfect for timing holding patterns, which are all done on 1-minute legs. So I would never let this watch go. I waited too long to get it back, and as a wonderful connection to my dad.
So we've actually spoken to a few different chefs. It seems like chefs and the culinary arts are often tied with watches. Do you know a lot of chefs that are watch collectors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or that are enthusiasts. They may not collect, but oddly enough, the sub is a favorite of a lot of chefs because you can time things.
Right.
You can use it as a time reference, and it puts up with steam and being knocked around and being kind of tortured. Yeah, chefs, and I think we all kind of look at each other's watches when we meet. It's kind of like, hey, what's going on? Yeah. How you doing? Oh, you had to sell the last restaurant. I see that now. But then I'm only really a snob about one thing. If I look over at a guy and I see his second hand go click, I immediately downgrade him a little bit.
Oh, man.
And that's bad.
That's
I know
tough,
I shouldn't
man.
do that, but I do.
Wow, it's cutthroat.
I want to see tick, 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 tick.
So what are you working on these days?
I am working on my live tour show, Alton Brown Live Feature Science, which is going to go back out on the road in October 2017 for our final round. I'm getting ready to go shoot some more Iron Chef Americas, which is being rebooted after about a 3-year absence.
We are back in Kitchen Stadium. This is Iron Chef America, and the clock is ticking away on our Las Vegas.
And I'm working on the digital reboot of my show, Good Eats, which will be online this time instead of on television.
Where will it be? So online on your own website?
I can't say yet. Coming to an internet near you.